One of the biggest competitions on the calendar is Feeder Masters, and on the 11th of April 2021, that is when this year's campaign to try and reach that big money final started. The format is simple: 20 qualifiers up and down the country at a selection of different venues would see 60 anglers compete in each one of those qualifiers. Each qualifier is split up into 3 zones of 20 anglers, and the winner of each 20 peg zone will progress through to that 2-day final at the Upper Tamar Lakes down in Devon. Now, for me personally, I haven't really been able to commit to this competition for the last couple of years just because of work commitments. However, during May this year, I actually changed my job, and that allowed me to focus a little bit more on these qualifiers. I fished several up and down the country on different venues, and I did have a couple of near misses. That was until the 25th of July when I took the long drive south down to Kent, where I managed to get a ticket for the Nichols Pit Qualifier. Having never seen this pit before, I was just relying on some local knowledge, and thankfully my tactics were quite simple. We'd heard that the carp weren't really feeding, so I decided to go down a catch anything type of approach, and thankfully that paid off. With my 19-pound of mixed bag of roach and skimmers was enough to qualify for the final, which takes place in September. This is a special event for so many reasons, but it's ran exceptionally well by Lee Kerry, and as a finalist you receive your acknowledgement email which gives you all the details about the competition. One of the great features to the competition this year was that they were actually going to be paying out the top 20 anglers from that 2-day final, which meant there was going to be plenty of prizes to fish for. On a personal note, I'd never really had the opportunity to fish Tamar Lake before, so that was another added bonus of why it was so special to reach that final. But to be absolutely honest with you, it was just fantastic to once again be wearing one of those finalists' caps. So in this film, I'm going to be sharing with you what it's like to compete in an event like this. Through a series of live streams and recordings, I'm going to be showing you how we progress through the event and just giving you a feel for what it's like to fish this fantastic venue. We're going to be discussing some of the baits, some of the tactics and some of the kit that we actually use to tackle this reservoir. And as you'd expect, we're going to be bringing you the full results and footage of the presentation. With a lineup like this and being on such a fantastically well-stocked lake, there is sure to be quite a few twists and turns along the way. However, not long after qualifying, we actually heard that due to COVID and travel restrictions, the World Pairs in Ireland was going to be cancelled for this year. That's an event we take part in every single year, but because we couldn't travel over there that first week of September, that meant that I could actually get down to Tamar to fish a festival to get a taster for the venue. This was a great trip because it gave me a great idea of the facilities on site. It obviously showed me the parking facilities as well, and I could also experience some of the long walks that I'd heard about, and inevitably that would give me a great opportunity to try and fine-tune what kind of kit I would need, what baits I would need, and hopefully come to some sort of an idea of how I would be fishing over the final weekend. As expected, this festival was dominated with whip and pole fishing, with lots of small fish being caught at short range. However, I did catch over 140 pounds of fish over the 4 days, all on the feeder, and that also included a couple of section wins, and I really just kind of got to grips with how and where the fish were being caught. To summarise how that festival went for me, here's a snippet from one of the match downloads straight after the final day's fishing. Well, this has just been the final day of competition at the Tamar 4-day festival. I have drawn peg 8 on Cornwall Bank. Opposite me is the noted quarry on the other bank, which I hear is good at when they peg it over there. However, this has been a great area. I really kind of, even though I caught 36 pound yesterday and kind of beat the anglers around me that have all fished the feeder, which I was really pleased with, it just wasn't enough to get up the leaderboard. So I went from 11th, I went down to 14th. So whilst I still caught 36 pound of skimmers, which I was very pleased with, especially the way that I caught them, on this bank they all caught fish, so I just couldn't gain any ground on the leaders. Hence I ended up in 14th position. There isn't a great deal of weight in it, difference-wise, to get to the top 5, but obviously everyone's catching weight every day, so it was always going to be a tall task. I fished very, very differently today. What I've basically done is, because a lot of the fish have been caught short, I haven't gone past 16 metres, so I've fed heavy with the feeding rod, with a big cage feeder, and I fed that at the start with 3 pints of ground bait. And I fed that at bang on 16 metres. I put some dead maggots in there, some casters, and quite a bit of chopped worm, really finely chopped worm. And the plan was to just kind of leave that line for at least an hour and a half. Initial period, I've had a feeder clipped up just with a slim. There we go, 11-foot slim. And I've had that clipped up at 6 metres, where I've just been underarming for that first hour and a half, to just catch anything, whether they be roach. If I could find some skimmers, then obviously even better, but just to put some fish in the net whilst I let that longer line rest. And to my amazement, by fishing for skimmers on that line, I've caught skimmers. So I've had a pretty good start. You know, I've caught some skimmers, hand-sized skimmers, going up to 8 to 10 ounce, and then I've gone back on my longer line at exactly a halfway stage, 2.5 hours in. I've gone on the longer line, and I've had 3 skimmers in 3 casts, and then basically I've spent the rest of the match on that line. The best spell was that initial spell, but then after that I had to start tweaking things. I had to constantly keep changing the feeder, the amount I was feeding, the hook bait, everything, and I just had to keep picking off fish, runs of fish. You know, you catch 2 or 3 in as many casts, and then you'd have 10 casts without anything, and that's really how it's been. So I think I've caught as much as I could from this area with what I know about the venue, but hopefully it's enough to just get me up that leaderboard. But that will obviously depend on how it's fished on that other bank, on the Devon Bank right down there. So that depends on how that's fished. But I'm gonna get some gear packed away, and fingers crossed that it's bumped me up a few places. I'd finished the festival in 11th place overall. I'd won some money along the way, but it really gave me a great opportunity to get to grips with the venue. I then had about a week just to get my kit ready, to fine-tune my tactics before we were back there. We travelled down there on the Wednesday, which gave us the whole day to travel down there, settle into digs, and then it was just going to be a case of hitting the ground running, ready for the final day of practice, which was going to be the Thursday. But because the conditions were so severe, I honestly felt I had an idea how I was going to be fishing it, so I just used that day just to get all my kit, get all my rods set up, put new shot leaders on, and just kind of fine-tune things ready for that Friday's open match. How you doing, everyone? It's a very different day today. I am actually on the bank at Tamar Lake, or Upper Tamar. We're here for this weekend's Feeder Masters Grand Final. It's a 2-day final. It's currently, if you're watching this on playback, it's Thursday. Now this is the final day of practice, so this is the last chance for anglers to come and get a feel for the venue, just to see how it's fishing and that sort of thing. The conditions are very, very different. I'm going to be showing you things in a minute, just showing you the venue. I promised to give you some feedback on how it's going here, and like I say, it's very, very different today. So the conditions have changed. It was red hot yesterday. I know that, I don't know if it was yesterday on here, but certainly the day before, there were anglers on here sat in their t-shirts. It was red hot, suntan cream. As you can probably tell, I'm underneath a brolly. It's a little bit different today. So hopefully you're going to hear me over the wind, because I am recording this on a mobile phone, so the sound isn't fantastic. But basically, I've decided not to fish today. My key job, as mentioned in yesterday's live stream, was to just kind of get my rods set up. I've got a selection of rods, which I'll show you in a minute, that are going to cover me over the next 3 days of competition. So my main aim was just really to set those up, so that obviously they're all ready for the matches. So I'm really confident that my selection of kit is right. However, I've got a couple of rods that will cover circumstances if conditions change, which, you know, it might be hinting that it is going to change, judging by the conditions today. So I'm going to flip the camera around for you so you can see the venue. So I'm over on Devon Bank, and there we go. The wind and the rain's just stopped at the moment, so hopefully that's going to not interfere with things too much for you. So for those of you that know the venue, the car park is over there. Okay, so we've all walked from there, alright. That is the dam head, or the dam wall, if you want to call it that. This bank here that we're on is the Devon Bank, and the bank over there is the Cornwall Bank, and that is it. Thankfully the rain is just stopped, but as you can see, it's very, very wintry. If I just go down here, like I say, I'm not set up at the peg today, just go down this little bit of a step, there we go. So I've got anglers to my right fishing, practicing there, and then you've got anglers going down to the left down there, as you can see. Okay, so it's very wintry, and I'll be absolutely honest with you, there aren't many fish being caught. Not at the moment, anyway. It is a slow start for many anglers. I'm just going to flick the camera around for you. So what might be happening, and I'm pretty sure that even if I'd fished today, I would have tried something different. So these lads are probably trying different things out anyway, so they're probably not fishing to their A game. So I've been situated here. I'll show you the base. There we go. I've got my back to the wind, really nice and comfortable. I've just really set up, well, how many rods have I got? I've got 9 rods with me. Alright, so these are what I'm hoping are going to be the key ones, just to give you a feel for the kind of kit I'm going to be using. So these are already set up now, as you can see. We're going to be fishing short range, so it's all about the slim for me. Fantastic rod, 3.3 metre, 11 foot. It can get you to where you need to be. A lot of the fish are going to be short here, and I've got them coupled with a 3000 horizon reel. So we've got 3 slims there that I've set up. I've also got a distance rod set up. Now, that word, please don't take that, what's the word, point blank face, you know, distance. I haven't set that up because I'm going to be fishing at distance. This rod is set up, it's a 12-foot rod. That is basically set up in case conditions really deteriorate. When I was here on my last trip here 10 days ago, there was certainly one day where I needed a rod like that to comfortably get to 35-40 metres. So that is a backup rod. Okay, I've got 2 of those set up, and that's just because that's a longer rod. I've got it set up with a 4000 size reel, because I know a lot of people ask about how you select the size reel to go with the length of rod. And then that final rod there is it's a feeding rod. Basically, it's a 10-foot Fox Warrior. That's coupled again, that's a 4000 reel with braid direct, and that is the feed, well, it's a feeding rod basically. If I decide that I want to put a volume of bait in, you know, with a big cage feeder, if I want to feed really positive somewhere, then that is the rod that I will use to do that. But I don't really know if that's going to be the right thing to do. So I'm sheltering under the brolly. Now this is Dad's brolly, not my big flush matrix one, that's still in the van. Dad was going to come over, but he's not coming because of the weather. I don't think he's going to bother, but I've nearly finished doing what I'm going to do here anyway. So I've got all the nice waterproof luggage, which is great, obviously. That's the mix I was going to try today. I was going to experiment a little bit. That is the mix I was going to fish with, but I'm not fishing, as you already know. So tomorrow is the open match. So we've got an open match tomorrow. They want it to be a 60 pegger, and that's going to give all the competitors an idea of what the venue's like under real match conditions. The pegs that are in tomorrow, that Lee, Kerry and Mick Viles have organised, they are going to be the match pegs for the weekend. So it's going to do a couple of things really. It's going to give the lads an idea of what the match pegs are like. So, you know, they're going to get some sort of feel what it's like under match conditions, ready for Saturday and Sunday's final. But what that's also going to do is that it's going to mean that some bait has actually gone in on those pegs as well, you know, which can be a big issue on these sorts of venues. Just like we see in Ireland, some pegs in areas might not have seen any bait for a while, and that's obviously going to hopefully kickstart those pegs and just set them up ready, and hopefully mean that there's going to be some fish in front of those pegs going into Saturday and Sunday's days of the final. So I can't talk too much about tactics. I mean, a lot of the things here are short range, you know, so a lot of it's going to depend on the peg that you've got. If you look over my shoulder, there are some big bays over there where it's much shallower. Okay, so you know, over there, I mean, I haven't fished over there, if you can see over my shoulder. There are some bays where it's really shallow, and that might mean that we're fishing for roach. It might mean that there aren't as many fish there. We don't know, because on the recent, or certainly the last time I was here in the last festival, those pegs weren't in. So it's going to be interesting. There are also some pegs over in front of, almost in front of the car park, over towards the boathouse. So you can probably just make out angles over there. So those pegs are in as well. So there's some areas that, you know, even though I was here 10 days ago, there were pegs, there are going to be pegs in this weekend that weren't in then. So that's going to be interesting as well to see what happens. Let me just take you around the corner, because I know, let me just turn the camera around for you. Like I say, I'm over on the Devon Bank. There we go. So that's looking back towards the dam head. Down there in the corner there, we've got Phil Ringer, Adam Wakeling's down there, Steve Ringer's down there. As you can imagine, we've got Ben here. The next one there is Andy Leathers. And then going up this way, I already know that I'm not going to take you right around the corner, but up here we've got Gaz Lambert, Frankie Jam and Jelly, Wayne Bartholomew's round there, Steve Whitfield. It goes right the way around, as you can see. Westy's round there, round into this bay as well. Westy's round there, and Des Ship. And then right over there on that other bank, right over there, I've been told that that's where Lee Kerry's fishing today. I don't know if that's right or not, but we think Lee's over there with Mick Viles. The rain stopped. I don't know if it's going to stay stopped, but I'm going to head on back over there now. I've just about got my kit. I'm going to get my kit packed away, get the ground bait sorted out for tomorrow, so that in the morning I haven't got anything to do. Sort my worms out, sort my casters out. As regards baits, there's lots of baits that lots of people have been talking about. You know, it's obviously maggot, caster, chopworm, or dendrobinas, red worms. I've been told it can be very important on here as well. But there's other lads talking about other baits as well. Some of them are fishing pinkies, some have got a lot of sweet corn, and some are feeding pellets as well, micro pellets. So there aren't any restrictions on that sort of thing. The ground bait issue is obviously always there. Some lads are going down the cereal route, like that sweet skimmer mix. Some are going down the fish meal route. So there's no way I was going to work all this out in one day today. So I've just got to go on the back of the confidence that I've got from the last time I was here. Hopefully draw a peg. I've been told that the pegging, you know, the draw is going to be massive, because there's so many different fluctuations in depth. There are areas that aren't quite as good as others, and the cormorants are a big problem as well. Certainly right up there where I've just pointed out where I think Lee Kerry and that are, you know, it's narrower up there, it's shallower, and that's where the cormorants are patrolling through. So even if you do get fish in front of you, there's every chance that you're going to be getting cormorants going through the peg as well. But that's the nature of the beast on these sorts of venues, you know. And I had a chat with Graham West this morning about it, and you know, whilst that's a terrible thing, it's good that we know about it, we can expect for it, we can try and plan for it. The good thing is that, you know, cormorants going through your peg, at least they're moving the fish around a little bit, so it's not like the fish are all holed up in one or two pegs. It might mean that everyone's going to get runs of fish at some stage. You know, we've got to try and look on the bright side of certain situations. So if the cormorants are going to be an issue up there, then that's certainly something that's going to have an impact on the fishing. So it's very much hit the ground running. Everything's going to come down to the draw. But like I say, tomorrow is an out-and-out open match. Tomorrow is nothing to do with the grand final, other than giving the lads an experience of the venue, of what it's like under match conditions. And no doubt it might highlight a few things. I'm going to fish a certain way tomorrow. I'm going to do something slightly different. I'll tell you about that tomorrow. And I hope you're all somewhere where it's nice, warm and dry. And I'm going to pack this wet kit away now and go and see if Dad's okay. So thanks for all the messages so far, everyone. And if I don't see you later on today, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. By this stage there was a brilliant atmosphere building. Everybody who had practiced on the lake could caught fish wherever they'd sat. By this stage we knew the pegging, we knew where the sections were, where the zones were, and obviously some people had got their eye on certain favoured areas where they wanted to draw on the first day of competition. However, for this practice match I actually drew peg 60, which is right over on the Devon Bank, and I was really pleased to be there for two reasons. One is it's an area that I've never fished before, so it would give me a great feeler for what that area is like. And I'd also drawn next to teammate Steve Ringer, who's fished on this venue in every final that's been on here, so that would give me a great insight into how he would approach it. Well, good afternoon everyone. I hope you are all safe and well. We are here at Upper Tamar Lake. As you can see me over my shoulder, it's a very dramatic sight. We've got the fog and mist rolling in again. It's rolled in 2 or 3 times. This has been the practice open match for the Feeder Masters, Preston Innovations Feeder Masters Grand Final, which takes place tomorrow and Sunday. It's a 2-day final. I'm sure you're all aware with it by now, all aware of it. Virtually every competitor who's competing this weekend has actually fished this match today, which is absolutely great. It's great to see them supporting it like that. It's been a very interesting match, and I was never going to come here and learn something in one day that was going to be drastically different from last time when I was here. So I've just kind of fished this match how I felt best based on those experiences. So I'm just going to flick the camera around for you in a minute. I'll show you the venue and everything. Dad's there, nice and warm. He's got the best job today. So I'm just going to flick the camera around. We are over on, apologies for any rain on the lens. We've just there, we've got Steve Ringer's there in the red, Lee Kerry's there, Matt Godfrey's there, and we're over on the Devon Bank. Okay, now I know you can't really see the other bank, so that's not going to let you know exactly where we are, but the actual peg I've drawn, or the peg for this competition, is what it's going to be tomorrow and Sunday, is peg 60, as you can see. We've got the wind coming from the left and in. It's been rather chilly, so that's been my peg. Next along is Steve Ringer, so that's where Steve's been today. He's been there, and that's the end peg there. 60, peg 62 is the end peg. Lots of you have seen the setup and stuff really, but I mean I'm just going to quickly show it you because lots of you ask about it, even though I'll take my nets out. I did have a feeder arm on there. I've got the side tray box. As you can imagine, in weather like this, it's just great for keeping everything nice and handy. I've got and keep it dry and everything. Selection of feeders, spare ground bait, another selection of feeders there, and that is it, and just a roost there. I'm just going to flick the camera around. As you may have seen on previous feeds and stuff, it's been all about the 2 rods for me. It's been about the XS Slim, or the Slim, or the commercial Slim for the short line, and then I've been using the commercial feeder for the longer line, and that's what my match has really been. It's been about 2 lines, and I've caught, I don't know what sort of weight, I've probably caught about £10 maybe on my shorter line. I've caught lots of roach on there today. One solitary skimmer, and that was only a small fish, and a few perch as well. So I don't think that was quite right. I think I've fished that line a little bit too short, to be fair, for the pegs that I'm on. But when I was here on this venue before, 10 days ago, the range that I fished at was about right, but it was red hot, flat calm, conditions were different. And it could be the area as well. So I really wish I'd fished that line a little bit longer, to be fair. However, my longer lines work really, really well. I fed it the same as I fed last time I was here, and I've caught some skimmers out there in runs. And then it's kind of died off with an hour and 15 minutes to go, so I've just kind of set it up, rested it, and when I've gone back on it again with 45 minutes to go, I've caught some. I haven't caught many fish, but they've been a better stamp. So whether that's a pattern that we're going to see, that slightly better fish are going to feed later on, I don't know, but the end result was good, that we put some extra weight in the net. So I've ended up weighing £35, which may have won the section. I haven't seen the results yet. So if you want to see the results when they are announced officially, like I say, I'm still packing up now. I've got a long walk back. Lee Kerry's only 2 or 3 pegs to my left. He's obviously doing the results. So the results won't be done just yet, and I haven't seen the weigh board. I mean, if we can get copies of the weigh sheets, I'll put them on as well for you, so you can see how it's fished all around the reservoir. But it's been, as you can see, a very wintry day. It did get really cold at one stage, but I think there's been a lot of lessons learned today, ready for tomorrow and Sunday's final. I think everyone will have learned something, so it's going to be interesting to see the weights, and that might give us a bit of a hint of how well or hard it might fish this weekend. So this has been a match in its own right. It's been a taster. It's been a match that Lee Kerry, the event organiser, and Mick Viles have ran to just let the lads get a feeler for the venue, and it's been a free match as well, which is great. I think it's a really nice gesture. So there will be a payout and everything for this match. They're paying the top 3, and then they're paying section prizes as well. So it'll be interesting to see what those winning weights are. So I'm going to get the rest of this kit packed away, get the barrel loaded up, and as soon as the results are published later, I will put them on this page for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next update. It was really surprising to see some of the weights that were weighed in along that bank, but the main thing was it was showing that there were plenty of fish feeding all throughout the lake, and that was just great to see, and it obviously set us up nicely going into day 1. Steve had experimented. It was great to see his approach and great to see the things that he tried out, because that obviously helped me out as well to see an approach outside of what I was doing. The match was actually won by Ian Didcott with £39. Ben was in second, and that fortunately pushed me into third, so it was nice to pick up some money on the first day. More than anything, it was a great settler just to give me confidence in my approach, my ground bait, and the baits that I've been feeding, and it was just a great stepping stone going into day 1. The morning of day 1 of the final was soon upon us. The lake looked stunning. Most competitors were there, nice, bright and early. There was a real excitement at the draw, as you can imagine. Some people wanted to draw certain areas, but other anglers, just like myself, didn't really know where we wanted to be.
Once you've drawn, okay, thank you. Okay, JCB, Jay's place, John Arthur and Eddie Bryden. Okay, Hallcroft, David Burley, Rob Woodson and James Dent.
As it turned out, I ended up drawing peg 55, which is over on the Devon Bank, and it's the next peg to where Ian Didcott had won the match the day before. Because the open match had been won just 1 peg away, I quite fancied this area. Admittedly, we had to get our tactics right, but I fancied that there were going to be some fish in that area, and I was in good company. On my left was Lee Kerry, on my right was Andy Moss, and next one along from him was good friend Will Freeman. But in comparison to how it fished the day before, this turned out to be a very different match. Today has been day 1 of the Feeder Masters Grand Final. I've got to kick off on a personal note. It's been a very, very different day from how it was yesterday. Yesterday I was on peg 60, which is over there. I was on peg 60. I won the section there, and I was 3rd overall in the match with £35. I had pretty much a set way of fishing it, and that is really based on what happened last time I was here 10 days ago in Westie's 4-day festival. So based on that yesterday, I have actually drawn, as you can probably tell from where I'm stood, literally just 5 pegs away. So yesterday I was on peg 60. Behind me is my kit there, which is peg 55. And to be quite honest, I quite fancied it. This is the peg that Dean Barlow was on yesterday, and it's the next peg to, if I just pan round, that gentleman there, who's Lee Kerry. Now that is the peg that Ian Didcott, or Diddy, was on yesterday. He won the match from that peg yesterday. So obviously we fancied it for a few fish, as you can expect. Now Diddy won the match with £40 yesterday. There was a 38, I think it was, and then there was my way to 33, so 35. But we fancied it for a few fish. Now I'm just going to flick round so you can see my peg in a bit more detail. There we go. Okay, so I was on peg 60, which was up there. Sean Stenson's just up there. We've heard he's got a very good weight. He's done really, really well. Next one down is Will Freeman. Next one down is Andy Moss. Andy Moss has got about 40 skimmers, I think. I've really struggled. I'll be absolutely honest with you. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. And then going to my left, which is on peg 54, is Lee Kerry. So there's a bubbler there, just to give you an idea, and there's a bubbler there, which is pretty much kind of in front of Andy, but he's not really fished that far. So that's my setup. I know lots of you like to have a look at setups and things like that. So basically, I fished exactly the same as I did yesterday, except my really short line I've pushed a little bit further out today. Now yesterday my short line was at only about 7 metres. And I didn't catch much on it. Caught about £10 on it overall, but some of the fish were nice stamp fish. The wind was hacking in, but I didn't catch any skimmers on it. Well, I had one stray skimmer. Anyway, to cut long story short, because there haven't been as many roach being caught, and all the weights have been coming on skimmers, and that's really how I've caught my weight, I thought I want to push that short line a little bit further out, and that's what I've done today. And it's been absolutely terrible. I've literally had about 5 small fish on it. So my first hour and a half maybe, has been terrible. Absolutely a waste of time. So what I've done is I've gone onto my longer line, which is where I've fed, just like I did yesterday, and I've done nothing but have liners. I've had loads of indications, completely different from yesterday, and completely different from previous visits here. So there were fish there. I don't think there were loads of fish, but there were fish there, and it's just never got going. I've flogged it and flogged it and flogged it. I've caught a few fish on it, and it's just never got going. However, in that time, Andy on my right has just been ticking over from catching skimmers all day, just steady throughout the day. And then Lee's gone on to his longer line like myself, and he again has caught skimmers steady. It was slow to begin with when he went on it, but it's just gradually he's ticked over. He's not had any mega spells. I think Lee's finished on 48 skimmers or 49. Andy's got maybe 40, maybe 38. I don't know what skimmer count I've got. I haven't counted them. I think I've got, I don't know, probably 20, 22, 23, something like that. However, most of those have come in the last hour and a half. I've literally had to set another line up. My lines, I'm not saying the lines that I chose to fish were wrong, but I think I just haven't fed them right. I think I would have caught in them. However, my initial line, my longer line, was longer than Andy's and Lee's, which means on this peg that was in deeper water. So whether it's the depth that's been an issue or the feeding, I'm not 100% sure. So I set another line up with an hour to go in a different depth, and I fed it a little bit more negatively. And I've had a run of fish. I've caught some skimmers. So basically all that was about was I was never ever going to catch Lee and Andy. You know, I would have needed another 2 hours. It was more about damage limitation. For those that don't know, this competition is cumulative weight over 2 days fishing, Saturday, Sunday. So obviously, if you can achieve the best weight on day one, it's obviously going to try and keep you in contention or not too far off the pace going into day 2. So that's basically what I had to do. I almost had to put the blinkers on, kind of ignore Lee to an extent, because he was catching all his fish doing the same thing. Andy was catching the fish doing that I couldn't catch doing what they were doing, so I had to change and find another way, just putting a few fish in the net, and I put a few fish in the net, that's it. So I've got a feeling I'm going to be quite a way off the pace going into tomorrow, but obviously we won't know that until we see the results, and I will post the results when they're official on this webpage for you as soon as Feeder Masters post them as well. So they're coming down with the scales, so I'll just switch around on the camera for you. There we go. Looks like they're just I'm not sure who that is, who's weighing in. Oh, is that Sean? That is Sean Stenson weighing in right now. I'll post all these definite weights up for you. Like I say, I am here on my own doing this, so I'm not able to weigh in and do all that sort of stuff, and the filming as well. So I'll do my best to bring you some information a bit later on. The next one coming back in the stood out in the water now is Will Freeman. He says he's been beaten either side, like me basically, so it sounds like he's had a tough day. And then coming back, just walking to the right now, that's Andy Moss, and he says he's got, I'm sure he's got 40, 38 or 40 skimmers, so he'll have a decent weight as well. So stories from the bank, I can basically tell you, we've heard that there are some fish caught on the other bank. It doesn't sound like there's been any mega runaway weight. It sounds like Sean might have the best weight. However, down there where you see the boats and everything and the dam wall, down there has been Mr. Dean Barlow. Now Dean has hooked and landed a very big carp today. I think it was about £17. However, in this competition the maximum weight you can get for carp like that is £5, so he's done incredibly well to land that fish. But that is the area where they caught some bream yesterday. So, you know, we've heard Dave Berry's caught some bream as well, proper bream. You know, it's the first time they've really caught bream there and in that area. So until we get the official weights and everything, we don't really know what's happened. And over there on the other bank, all that bank over there, that is where all anglers are as well. And there are even anglers over there that have gone over to this point and been transported over there on a boat. So as you can imagine, there's a huge expanse of water to weigh in. So I don't want to start giving you too many bits of gossip and stuff. We think it's going to be very, very tight, as always, as it is in these conditions, in these competitions. But for anglers like myself, who have been off the pace, I can't say off the fish, but off the pace, maybe tactically, you just don't want to be too far away, because you don't want to be going into day two hoping for a miracle. You know, you still want to be in with a shout. But I've got to say, you know, the great thing about this competition is, especially this year, Lee Kerry and Mick Viles they're paying out the top 20 in this competition, which is absolutely fantastic. So even if you're not in contention to win it, you know, if you are off the pace or too far off the pace, then there are other prizes to fish for. And I think 20th place gets about £200. So there's plenty to fish for, and every fish matters and counts. So just to let you know the quick format before the scales get to me, basically we fished on this bank today, which is the Devon Bank. And if I flick round, that basically means that tomorrow we will be in the draw for the Cornwall Bank, which is that bank, and those anglers over there will be coming over here tomorrow. Okay, so what I will do is, after the weighing, I'm going to grab Lee Kerry for a couple of minutes. He's kindly offered some time, so as soon as I've weighed in and he's weighed in, we'll know what everyone's weighed here. We'll have a quick chat with Lee, and he can just quickly, he might want to tell us about his match, but I'm sure he's got some information for you just about how the event's going so far. So I'm going to get weighed in, start packing some rods away and stuff, and I'll see you in a few minutes for another live stream. It might be about another 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, when we'll grab Lee for a quick chat. So thanks for logging in, everyone. I'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Alright, we just had the weigh in here. It sounds like Steve Whitfield's had the top weight right down there. Top weight with £35, I think he's had. Sean Stenson, who we knew had caught loads of fish, he's had 34. Coming further along the bank, I'm not sure what Will Freeman had. Andy Moss, who's been on my right, who's had all those skimmers, he's had £25. I thought he would have had a bit more than that, to be fair. And I've weighed a little bit more than I thought. I've had £20.11, so I expected being a much lower weight than that. Lee on my left has had 48 skimmers, I think he's had. He's had a brilliant, what was it, Lee? 32-14, absolute lovely net of fish. He's here now, so I'll just have a quick chat with him. You're on, mate. Well done, mate. How many fish? 48?
Yeah, 49
Fantastic.
skimmers and some roach to start with for the first hour. Yeah, it's good, Jamie. This area here, from me down, I don't think so much your peg, if I'm being perfectly honest, but me down, I felt £30 would be a decent weight.
Right.
You certainly wouldn't, chuck back £30 for a first day. So I'm happy to have got there. I mean, after 2 hours, I had four skimmers and 20 roach, and you're praying for that sort of arrival. It's been good. I can't complain at all. I've got to admit, I just kept feeling like I wanted to push it on a little bit, and I think I had 45 with 30 minutes to go, and I felt that it was going to be possible to. In fact, today I might have even had.
Your last 30 minutes was rubbish.
Awful, woeful.
And the indications you had, you didn't come back with fish,
no,
did you?
I was really disappointed. I feel like 32-14. I think 35. I should have caught 35. I'm happy with how I fished up until the last 30 minutes, and I've just had. I think sometimes it's not your fault, but you get a good bite and it's behind a rock or something, and
yeah,
and you don't connect, and then it all just goes a bit iffy. So, listen, I think that weight keeps me in it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be ever so close. And tomorrow's another day, isn't it? So.
Got to ask you, have you got any favoured areas for tomorrow on the other bank? Before you see today's result.
I tell you what I really fancied today, Peg. I fancy that there's a shallow bay over there at a £26 yesterday. I'm not sure who's on it. It might be Phil Ringer, but peg 26.
Yeah.
It's an end peg. He caught £26 yesterday of skimmers and bream, and it's dead shallow there, which tells me there's a lot there. So like, sort of in my mind, I thought, oh, that'd be a nice draw, especially with the wind on. But no, who knows? Who knows? You know, another £30 tomorrow is the target. If you catch £30 tomorrow, I'll have a chance of winning it. You know, but I think there's a lot of stories left to come yet.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned yesterday, part of this competition is that the event organiser Lee and Mick and everybody, they actually organised yesterday's open match. Was kind of a practice match, was paid for basically, wasn't it? It was a free match.
Yeah. Every year, Jamie, we try to make our event a little bit better. We pay 20. We pay the top 20, which I think is brilliant. You know, you're going into tomorrow. You haven't had the greatest of days, but you can still come top 20, 100%, right? So you're going into tomorrow, I can still be top 20. And then sections are 100 quid every 5 pegs. And we just thought, what else can we do to help people out? And we basically just said, look, let's have that match as a practice match. Let's have that extra match as a practice match and make it all paid for. We're 300, 200, 100, 50 quid section. So we paid out 1,200 quid. So it's 1,200 quid. We could have added on into the prize, but why? When 60 of the 61 anglers came to the practice match.
Yeah.
So makes it a beautiful 3 days, doesn't it?
And Lee's getting packed up now because not only has he got to do the results, where are you dining tonight, mate?
We've got barbecue on tonight, James. Barbecue for all competitors and competitors' dads that we like.
How good is that? The head coach is getting a burger.
Yeah.
So that's another perk, so that'll be great. So when we get over there, obviously we'll be able to have a chat with everybody and see how they've all got on. So we'll let you get packed away. Thanks for that, Lee.
Brilliant. Been good
Thank
company,
you.
Jamie.
Nice one, mate. Well, now we've mentioned the word barbecue, you can see it's going darker now in typical fashion. So we're hoping it's not going to rain. So it looks like certainly on this bank that about £35 has been the top weight. It'll be interesting to see what's been caught over there. We think Dave Berry, who we heard had caught some bream over there in the deep water. I think he's had 32, 33, something like that. So it sounds like it is going to be very, very tight. But for me, I'm on £20, £20.11 I think it was. Just got to hope for a good draw tomorrow and I hope there's going to be a bit more of a pattern. You know, I haven't really had a pattern today as regards my plans. So we'll see what weights has been happening, you know, what's happened over there. We're going to get packed away before that rain comes, walk back over there with Dad and we're going to have a nice barbecue, have something to eat and just find out how the rest of the reservoir's fished. So thanks for logging on, everyone, and I'll update you a little bit later on with some results. Looking on the bright side, that late change had got me a late run of fish, which meant that finishing on £20 didn't put me too far out of it. It was great to see that no one had really ran away with the competition. However, it was really, really tight. Just a few ounces separating some competitors, but that meant that I was now in 29th position out of the 60 anglers after day one. But because it's a weight competition, all you need to do is get your tactics right, draw a decent peg on the following day, and that could hopefully mean a position in that top 20. It had been an incredibly disappointing day. In a competition like this, you always want to get off to a great start. However, reports in the area were that there were fuel shortages. We had to travel the 300 miles back home the following evening, so we had to go looking for diesel. And as it turned out, we ended up at a fuel station right in the seaside town of Bude. It was an absolute beautiful evening, so that was a nice little distraction. And once we managed to get a tank full of diesel again to make sure we could get home, our minds were back on to day 2 of this fantastic event. It was the final day and we woke to a beautiful morning. The sun was out, there was very little wind, and as I had drawn peg 29, that would involve a boat trip. Now this area hadn't fished fantastic, however rumours were that the wind was going to get up, the direction of the wind looked favourable, and as there are only 5 pegs on this bit of a point, it really did look nice, and obviously we were hoping that we were going to get a bumper day's fishing. So once we got over there and got set up, it was time for a check-in.
Good morning everyone, hope you are all safe and well. Just going to give it a few seconds for 1 or 2 people to log on. This is an unannounced live stream. This is day 2 of the Preston Innovations Feeder Masters Grand Final. On a personal note, I drew a peg yesterday which personally I think it was worth £30. But I didn't feed it quite right for that peg. I just fed it the same way that I'd fed and fished the previous day, which was just 5 pegs away, and it didn't quite work. I did change things later on, which kind of damaged or limited the damage a little bit. However, I ended up with £20, which it could have been a lot worse than that. The leader of the competition is Chris Stevens on £36, so there's not a massive gap there. However, it's very, very tight. There's loads of people around that weight, 30s, high 20s. It's incredibly close, as you can imagine. So today, if I flick, I've just popped up there. Good morning, Mark. Thanks for joining us, mate. I'll just flick the camera around for you. There we go. A very different view today. Today, I have drawn peg 29, and it's over on, well, basically they call it the boats. And it's not because there are any boats here, it's because you access these pegs via a boat. So, peg 29, basically that is the dam wall, that is where you park and everything, and we've had a boat ride right the way over to this point here, and there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pegs. There are only 5 pegs here. So, on this end peg here, we've got Brian Nesbitt. He's on the end peg there. A lot of you know Brian. Next peg along, who is just gone for a walk, or he's just coming back to his peg now, is Steve Ringer. Next peg is me, I'm there. Next one along is Alex Murray, just coming out of the water there. And on the end there is someone who is in contention, is Sean Stenson, who had a fantastic day yesterday. He is on an end peg there, but it's not really renowned for throwing up big weights. I think Mick Viles may have been on that peg yesterday. But the top weight over here, I think, was Phil Bardell, possibly on Brian's peg, with a £30 weight. And then I know that the peg that Sean Stenton's on, I think that's where Mick Viles was yesterday. I think he had £21. Now Sean's in contention. He had a fantastic day yesterday. I mean, the word on street basically is that lots of the leaders have drawn pretty good today. Not fantastic, but they've all drawn pretty good. So it looks like, you know, on paper, that the lads that are up there right now may still be up there at the end of today. So as regards my match, I'm here. There are a couple of bubblers there. There's a bubbler there way over to my right. That's not my swim. There's a bubbler there in front of Stephen. There's another bubbler further out past that one in front of Stephen, but that's a hell of a long way. We reckon that's 100 metres away. I don't know if Brian's got a bubbler. I don't think so, but it is the end peg, so whether that's an advantage or not, I guess we'll find out. So it's looks like it's going to get a little bit windier. As regards my peg, I'll just take you out to the swim just so you know, because I know lots of people ask about this sort of thing. Count wise, I didn't know what to expect here. I've never been here before, but as I get to the peg, you get an idea. Basically that bubbler there to the right is about 40 metres, I would say. And on that line, I've got a count of, it's a high 7, so it's about 7.8 seconds, just to give you an idea of the depth. I've got a couple more rods to get out. Obviously, we're not going in until 10:30. So I've got a couple more rods. I mean, the setup's the same that you've been seeing all week anyway. But yeah, I've got a couple more rods to get out. And like I say, this wind looks like it's threatening to get a bit stronger, so I'm just going to make sure I've got another 12-footer up, just so that I can get that range. I'm going to be fishing a little bit further out today, and from what I've heard Steve set up, I think he's going to fish a similar match. We need him weight, you know, £20 a roach for me today is not going to be enough to get me in the frame, and £30 might not be enough. So I've just got to kind of get a weight, and I think the only way I'm going to do that is by catching skimmers. I'm not going to catch a £30 roach on this peg, even if I get the tactics bang on, because I don't think it is a roach peg. I don't think the roach are there in numbers. So it's got to be skimmers, so I've got to find a way of catching them. Yesterday, the way that I fed, I had skimmers in my peg, but I didn't catch as many of them as what I could have done. So I'm going to bear that in mind today and feed my swim slightly differently. And that's about it. So what I'm going to do is I'll give you a check-in with you straight after the match. We are fishing until 3:30. That is, as soon as the match finishes, we're obviously going to get weighed in. But I'll try and get a stream from the peg for you after the weigh-in. Obviously, we can't really hang about because the boats will be coming over to fetch us to take us back over there for the result. While I'm talking, that wind seems to be getting a little bit stronger from the left and in. It does. It looks good. We just hope that, you know, the fish are going to be there. I mean, 4 out of the 5 of us over here. 4 out of the 5 of us are really chasing away. There's Brian, Steve on my left, there's myself and Alex. We're all chasing away. You know, I think Brian yesterday, unfortunately, he had a low weight. Steve yesterday, I think he had about £17. I had £20. Alex, I'm not sure what Alex had, but I think it was less than £20. So there's 4 of us here all chasing away. And obviously Sean, he wants to get enough weight to keep him up there to put him in a position to challenge for the title. So it's going to be very, very interesting. So I'll check in with you after the match. So thanks for all the great messages.
It was a really interesting match. I'd started the match quite negative, but then just responded to feeding more as I started to get more bites. And with that wind blowing in, it looked ideal. My match went really well. I started catching early, not quickly, but certainly quicker than anybody around me. And it was just a steady tick over, just keep the feeder going in, keeping nice and busy. I had a spell of about 50 minutes where I didn't catch in the middle of the match, but then just by tweaking things again, going into that last hour, it gave me another late run of fish.
Well, how you doing, everyone? As you can see, we expected the wind to get up. That's exactly what's happened. It did die down the middle of the match, but it is quite strong now, and thankfully I'd got a couple of 12-foot Horizon Pro distance rods set up, 12-footers, to fish my long line, and I'm glad I did that now, obviously, because they were the rods that I needed to get to that range that I fished today. I decided to fish 40 metres. That was in about 7 seconds of water, and that's basically been it. I decided to fish down one hole in the end. I needed a weight here today. I had £20 yesterday, £36 in the competition. However, in this competition, they do pay out the top 20, all right, and my key goal today was to just try and get enough weight to get into that top 20. Simple as that. You know, no silly dreams of doing enough to win. Obviously, if I'd drawn a fantastic peg and kept catching, then obviously I would have taken that, but you know, didn't know what to expect. So as it turns out, I've just fished that one hole at 40 metres, and to be quite honest, after it was a slow start, but I was the only one that was catching early on. I've gone in quite negative just because I didn't know what to expect. There are 5 pegs here, and what, you know, for those that don't know, for every 5 pegs, I think it's 5 peg section, I think, there is a section prize, and it might be about £100. I think it's 5 peg sections, I'm not sure. So you've still got your section money to win, you know, to target anyway. But as it turns out, I've had a really steady day. I've kept it negative most of the time, but I've kind of stepped up the feed as I've gone along in response to the bites that I was getting. I've ignored roach altogether and fished for skimmers, and I've ended up with 52 skimmers, which I'm not even going to try and guess the weight, which I think is the best here. Steve Ringer on my left has really struggled. You know, he had a really slow start, he caught a few in the middle, and then it's gone rubbish, and then he's made a change at the end, a big change with about 50 minutes to go, and he's had an incredible run of fish from there, and they've been better fish as well. So whether he's overtaken me or not, I don't know. So he's not had as many fish, but the better fish he's had later on will obviously could bridge that gap, but we don't know until we weigh in. So I'm going to have to get packed to weigh, because just there, just to the left of where Brian is where the boat will be picking us up to take us back to the jetty back over at the car park.
Steve had done brilliant to get himself back into this match. He'd constantly been ringing changes. I could see what he was doing. And finally, gone into that last hour, he'd made a change, and that gave him a massive boost in weight. And I honestly thought that he may have caught me right at the end. Sean, unfortunately, his peg let him down. The peg just wasn't strong enough to give him the weight that he needed to keep him right at the top of that leaderboard. But my 52 skimmers actually weighed £38.10. It was a little bit more than what I thought, and that was enough to win the section there. But once we arrived back at the car park, it was clear to hear that the lake just hadn't fished quite as well, and my 38 pound was actually the top weight on day 2. That had given me a total weight of 59 pounds 6 ounce over the 2 days, and that weight had shot me up the leaderboard. In a few moments I'll be showing you the full result of all anglers through the competition, but here we have special permission from Lee Kerry and the Feeder Masters team to show you their live stream of the top 5 at the presentation.
Back, this is the top 5. I was chatting to this lad yesterday. I was telling the guy at the side of me, Jeff, this guy's been in my line of vision as an angler, I think all my life, because he's a lot older than I am. He's a legend from the northwest. It's his first time in the Feeder Masters final. Dominates his local venue, Carmill. Feeder or pole. Camasan Matchman of the Year dominator for years and years and years. Great team angler and a really, really nice bloke. His 2 weights have combined come to 57 pounds 8 ounces and a cheque for £1,750 for 5th place. It's Derek Bennett.
Smile, Derek.
Yeah, bring it to me. He'll get angry. He'll get angry.
This way, mate.
Right, Lee mentioned earlier the top 20 are really tight, and it always is tight here, but it don't get any tighter than this. Member of the England feeder team, fantastic fisherman. 3/4 of the partnership is the edge. 2 great performances. Total weight of 59 pounds 5 ounces. Puts him in 4th place and a cheque for £2,000. It's Rob Wotton.
Thank you.
This way, Rob. Split.
Close to the edge. On to your top 3. And it just goes to show you how you can turn this match around. It's a 2-day event. All you've got to do is stay in the game. You can never win it in 1 day, but you can certainly win it in 2 and you can come back. And this lad's proved it. He's been on the boat ride today and made the most of it. Seasoned campaigner. Does all the hard work. Travelled all the way down to the south of England to qualify for this. His 2 days have combined have come to 59 pounds 6 ounces. That puts him in 3rd place and a cheque for £2,500. It's Jamie Harrison.
Nice one.
Thanks very much.
David.
It's saying alright, isn't it? Yeah.
Don't get used to it. Right, 2nd place. This means a hell of a lot to this chap, but it means a lot to us as well. Because as I said, Feeder Masters is nothing without the competitors. And some people just put that extra time, extra effort, and you can't argue, extra miles.
Yeah.
And over the last 5 years, this lad has been the campaigner at Feeder Masters. He's been everywhere. And because of his efforts, he's actually qualified 5 times, which puts him in a very, very small group of people. And he's had his reward today. He's fished 2 fantastic matches. Fantastic. He's been up there today on peg 1, and he's consolidated where he left off yesterday. And that's put him with a total of 63 pounds 4 ounces and a cheque for £4,000. It's Mr. Dave Berry.
Well done, mate.
Hold that cheque up, please.
Yeah, just turn that check round for the day.
However you want. Take your time. Enjoy it.
Brilliant. Lovely.
If you just take your place on the podium, pal. You might want that because you can actually bank that. Well, I'm sure you've worked out there's a reason why I'm stood here and you're not listening to him again. And that's because you've got to look at him again. And everybody knows the winner, so I'm not going to make no secret about it. But what I do want to do is just say a few words about him. 2 years ago we came down here and a new venue, and Lee was, you know, current champion in other feeder competitions. Has proved that not only is he an all-round angler, he's a fantastic angler at everything he does. And another title to his portfolio, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. He's made history today because he's the first person to win that twice. And there's 3 people that's won it before in the final today. And on that note, I did say when we received that trophy from the people who made it that if anybody won it 3 times, they'd keep it. And he's 2 parts of the way there. So to run a match like this takes some doing. To fish in it is even harder. To fish, run and win it takes some kind of hero, and I'm sure as far as fishing's concerned this guy is an hero. A very, very good friend of mine. We'll be drunk as lords tonight. I'd like to just ask Robbie Griffiths from Press Innovations to come up and present this trophy for me. And I want you all to put your hands together, don't stop clapping, for the one and only Lee Kerry.
Beautiful.
Please take your place on the winner's podium all day. Ladies and gentlemen, the top 3 Freedom Masters.
Dave Berry always does well in this competition, and it was absolutely fantastic to see him in the runners-up place. And we've obviously got to say a massive congratulations once again to Lee Kerry on winning this title for his 2nd time. It's so difficult to run events like this properly, but to run them and compete in them and winning them as well is something very special. This was the climax of a journey that started back in April. It's been an incredible journey for lots of anglers just to try and make this final. But it wouldn't all be possible without the organiser Lee Kerry, Mick Viles, Darren Viles, the fishery team here at Tamar, and of course to Preston Innovations for their generous sponsorship. And that's why I'm sure there will be hundreds of people once again trying to get in this competition when tickets go on sale in mid-January. So we hope to see you there next year.